My name is Neoshi Green-Kebreau. I am a clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. I work with women and a few brave men who are on a journey to heal their souls, break through blockages, and align with their divine purpose. I work with well over 1,000 people to date. I've worked with people from all over the world, US, Canada, Asia, Europe, Australia, Africa, you name it. I have clients there. Um, don't worry, you're in good hands. I know what I'm doing. The girl about that life. In this group regression, you will be visiting 2 past lives, the life in between lives, and 5, 10, and 20 years into your future. You will be having your own experience. Everyone will go into hypnosis at the same time, and you will go through and have your own experience, see your own past lives, all of that. It will be your own experience. So just allow yourself to experience what you need to experience today.
I want you to go ahead and close that scene. Now close that scene. I want you to now move to another significant event in that same lifetime there, again, with something else important that's happening. In a moment, I'll begin helping you come out of this hypnotic state. Welcome back. Only share if you want to.
Hey, so I was this mermaid and I went deep down into this water, but if the water was in a cave and I had long hair, but when I turned around, I wanted to see myself. So when the mermaid me turned around and I saw me, I was a skeleton. I went backwards to how I got to that part, and I was on a boat and I fell out the water. And this merman got me and he broke my legs on purpose. And then he did something to my body and he wouldn't let me leave. I don't think I was human anymore. I went to a part where I was like in the 1800s or something. I was light skinned. It was slavery, but I had a white husband and he slapped me in public. And I was like, I'm gonna beat your ass when I get home. So I had a lot of freedom. Then I ended up, we were out, I guess we were happy. We were outside on a swing. I had kids. I recognized two spirits. One of them was my son. My son now was my son then. I recognized one of my very best friends. I recognized her. We were swing. I was on a swing. My husband was swinging me. My kids were walking around, but every now and then I would dabble back into that water. That's why I was like, I don't think I was human. I think because I would go back and forth. I kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And my last life, they burned me. They burned me. And I said at the stage, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not being with no white men no more. I'm over it.
I don't know where I was stealing from, but I was kidnapped and my ankles were shackled. I just remember being really cold in the bottom of a boat, and I knew it was wasn't just me there. I don't know where we were, but we were definitely being sold as slaves. I was sold to my slave master, but I don't remember being treated badly. I was basically he slept with me, and I had a child for him, and but I hated him, and all I did was just pine to be back home and be with my family. I do know that my brother was on this boat with me, but I never saw him again once we got off the boat. And also in that life, I remember dying and my daughter just being with me. It was just her and I, just the two of us in this life. And I was really old and I had these long gray braids, and she was sitting beside me while I was taking my last breath. One of my next lives, I was just a bird. I was just flying everywhere. And I was just the happiest bird that ever. But I just remember flying a lot, just flew everywhere and I saw everything.
And then when I went to my past life, I was already on the beach, but I was like in a wedding dress. I was a Caucasian woman, Irish, I'm thinking, and it was like my wedding day. I had red hair, and but I was alone, and it was at night. Even though it was my wedding day, I wasn't happy at the time. I just felt like sad, and kind of like my new husband didn't really love me. I thought this is where my life ended because I ended up running and jumping into the water, but it didn't because in the next one, I was pushing, me and my daughter were going, pushing ourselves down. I was pushing her in a stroller. It was kind of like an antique stroller. So I was thinking it was like back in like the 1800s in like Boston area. That's the feeling I got. And we were just walking down the street and, she was looking really cute and, I wasn't speaking to anyone. No one was speaking to me, even though there was like people all around us, just going about their day. And, I was just walking through, going on a walk. And then the next scene, I was in the house and I was in the house feeding my daughter and my husband. So, came into the scene and he was excited about a new job, and he was a doctor and he was excited about a new job. We ended up moving down south to like North Carolina. That's what I want to say. Everything was going good, and how I passed in that life, we was horseback riding, and I fell. Like I hit a tree and fell off the horse and like hit my head and broke my neck. My next life, I wasn't anything. I was like a energy, like a mist. It was like as soon as we went to the next scene, I was just like, and you know how if you go to like Niagara Falls, if you ever went to Niagara Falls and then the mist, like it was like that. Like I was a mist, and I was like by a waterfall, but could move through the air, through the water and through the air. And like and when you would say, what does your body look like? And I'm like, nothing. I don't have one. Like I'm just energy. I'm just here. And I was just, and then every question you ask, who's around you? Nobody. It's just me. And I'm just floating through there, and I go into the water and I come out, and it's just like a mist, and I be in the clouds. And how I ended that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to become a human soon. I'm gonna have to reincarnate into this life. And that's when I came into mine.
My first life, I was in a marketplace and I had on red. I couldn't see any other color, but I know I had like a hat or something. And I thought that I was in Africa, but I wasn't. And then I didn't see any other people. Like I knew I was in this marketplace doing business. I didn't see anybody else until this man flashed, and he had dreads and he had on like a vest with an opening. And after like me doing my writing, like spirit is still talking to me, like making clear what I saw. He was a black samurai. It's like I went to another life, but in that life, all I was a flash of light. It looked like when like World War, what was that, II, when we bombed Hiroshima? That's what it looked like. It looked like a nuclear bomb. Like that's what kind of light I was.
I was an elderly lady. I was in a wheelchair on the beach because I couldn't get off the beach for some, I couldn't move. Are you supposed to feel something in this?
When you say feel, what do you mean? Emotionally wise?
Like
physically?
Okay, yes, because
some people do. Yes.
Okay, the old lady was like hurting. The old lady who was sitting in the chair, I was hurting. It was like my legs was hurting and my side was hurting, and I really felt it. Like, oh my God, I felt it. Transition to another one. I don't know what this means, but I was in this, it felt so real because I have a scratch on my arm. I don't know where it came from. I swear. I was in this basement type thing, and we got out and we were just running around. It was like a maze, and we finally got to the woods and we were running through stuff. I was crying. An actual tear came down out of my eye. My arm hit one of like the bushes, and I have this little scratch. I swear, I have a little scratch right here. I just remember falling. I couldn't move. I couldn't see anything. After I fell in this black hole, I couldn't see or feel anything.
I would say that I started feeling like I was losing myself. Like I feel like I couldn't breathe, but it was like the feeling of water was shooting up my nose. You know how like you're swimming and you feel like the water burning my nose. So I don't know if I drowned or it was just dealing with me seeing this older city. So I don't know if I know that I was observing, but it was like I could see the city and I saw these huge ships, older, I say back in the pirates, when they have these big, like when the wind is hitting them, like you can see the air blowing the ships, the sail ships, and they was huge. I say probably about 1500s, 1400s, something like that. Older city, but low key it looked advanced. You get what I'm saying? Like it looked like it was an older city, but it was advanced. And I appeared to be, it was like I was in this puddle, like in this pond. I don't want to say more so of a cave, but it was like a puddle, but I can observe, I could see, but it was like I wasn't supposed to be seen, something like that. But I could see this hidden city. So I don't know if I came from under the water up and I was able to see the water, like it was underwater, or something like that. It was confusing, but it was like I had to travel there, but it was burning my nose or something. And then it switched, and I guess it was in another life or something, but it was like it was like smoke was clouding my lungs, like I couldn't breathe. And I didn't know if it was because I almost had a fear of almost burning up in the house. So it was like I just felt like I was just smoked out, like pure darkness. And I don't know if I died in a house fire or what. I also saw a pyramid. It was a pyramid, and it seemed to turn into like a Trojan horse. But again, I was viewing. It was almost like I was remote viewing. But the Trojan horse, they kind of looked like one of the pieces on the chessboard.
I was boys in both lives. The first one, I was about 12, dirty clothing, looked like kind of rag, walking bare feet. The road was kind of like a brick road. I want to say my father did something with horses. I just remember like steel. I don't know if he made like the horseshoes, but I just remember fire and him like hitting things, like I guess making like horseshoes, something that he did, and he got held captive. Like some men came and got him. I remember people in the town, staring, and me crying, trying to figure out like what was going on. I had a younger sibling. We were white. My mother was there. She was crying. Not my mother, but the parent who I had, a white mother. And because of what my father did, I had to go and live and work off whatever he did. I had to go and work it off. And I remember going to some form of a castle, and it was some form of a fight. I was still, at this time, I may have been about 18, 19 years old. I don't know if I was a knight or what I was, but we were riding on horses doing some form of a fight. I remember cannons going through where we were at, and I got stabbed on the side, and that's how I died. Then when we went into the second life, I was an old man, and people were speaking a different language. I think I was probably like Asian descent. And I just remember shaking like really bad. So I don't know if I was shaking for real, but I just remember shivering. We were like in a hut. It was in a forest. They were speaking a different language. I felt I knew what they were saying, but it was like all of my family around me. And I was just on the bed. I was old, maybe in my 60s, 70s. I think I was really, really sick because I can remember people coming over to me, like patting my head with warm cloths, and I couldn't stop myself from shaking. They were trying to get me to eat, and I couldn't eat, and I was just getting sick and just shaking. I don't know why my body was just shaking. And then when it kind of pushed forward to another scene, I went back to, like, I think I was getting married, and I was a man getting married. And I can remember people giving us gifts at our feet. My fiance was in another room, and I was like on a high chair, and people were just coming in, giving gifts. I was draped in really nice clothing. And then it pushed forward to the next scene. I was having my son. Well, my wife was having the son, and people were giving us gold coins for, I don't know what the significance of that is, but it was gold coins because this was the first son. We had 2 daughters, and then this was the son. So then when we went back to the end of that scene, that son, when I was dying, was at my side, like holding my hand, letting me know it's okay. And I wasn't ready to go. And I kept shaking my head no, because I knew I was dying, but I didn't want to go. He was, just holding my hand and letting me know it was okay. Even though I couldn't understand the language, I felt like he was saying it's okay.
Both of my past lives were pretty like jacked up, honestly. So the first one, I was like a 10, 11-year-old boy who was walking. It looked like I was in the Middle East, I think at Latin times, like in the market. So I was in the market walking around. I had like a stick, and it was as if I kept talking to people, and then I find out that, like, once I look at myself, I have rags, kind of like what Toya said. I look like I was poor, like a poor little boy in the market asking people for things. And then once we went, and I just kept walking, and everyone was ignoring me, and just like we typically do homeless people now. And then I fast forwarded to a scene where I'm walking into this like rundown home, and there's an elderly person there. It's an elderly lady, and I walk in, and you can tell she's dying, I'm taking care of her. I let her know that I didn't get anything, but still I'm there, I'm nourishing her, taking care of her. I'm down, no other family, just the two of us. Then you had us go to another scene, and I ended up going like to the beach, or like to where there was a body of water. And I was bathing as this little boy, and this person came to me, this guy, and he was just like, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve this. I understand, like, I think I wrote down what it was. You don't deserve this. You're doing a good job. Sorry that it's not fair. And I just sat there with like this straight face and was like, just looked at him, but didn't really give him any attention, ignored him. And then once he left, I just cried. And I was crying as I was lying here too. But yeah, just cried, and gathered myself, went back to the shack. And then I noticed that the elderly woman, which I'm pretty sure was a grandmother, she was dying. And so as she was dying, I took some poison, and I drank the poison, and I just lied down next to her. And it was as if we died at the same time. And then my next life, I just saw these people cheering, and I thought I was in the Middle East again, but I'm thinking it may have been, a little bit more west, where I was in Africa, but I was like this warrior king type deal. And so I was a Black guy, middle-aged, dark skin, beard. And all these people were cheering. I'm walking around, but I still felt alone. And as I went through the scenes in his life, I was alone. He was a king who had amassed all this wealth, went home to this castle, or, all that. But there was no one home. And then he had people like servants who worked for him. And they would say, one time a brother came in, he was like, hey, your brother wants to talk to you, my lord, or whatever. And he's like, send him in. And the brother's begging for him to let him in. And he's like, let me into your life. Why are you, excluding us and all this? And he just writes him off. Goodbye. And then the servant came and said, your two sons want to talk to you. And then I was just like, as the king, goodbye, whatever, I don't care. We went to another scene, and there was a wedding, and I was getting married, but it was a very young girl, like super young girl. Like she didn't want to be married. And I just did it because I think I didn't want to be alone. And then I think, we finally went to I kissed her on the forehead, but it was just really like, whatever, I just don't want to be by myself, but I don't want to let these people in that are around me. Fast forward to the very end. And then as I'm dying, I'm older, like 80s, 90s, I'm in the bed, and there's no one there. And I just die alone. And I'm like, this is some messed up stuff. Like, got to the spirit guide. She kind of set me down. Like, she was in all white and gold, and it was a Black lady. And she set me down, and she said something, and she said to me, in your next life, you're going to be able to give the things that you wanted to give, because you either couldn't because you were poor and didn't have it and didn't have anyone, or because you refused to. And she said something like, it's my choice.
I saw myself, it was like my first one, I was a slave girl. I could tell from what I had on. But in both of them, I practiced burning candles, healing people in both lives. The first one, I think I got burnt up. I'm not certain. And the second one, I was like an Egyptian princess. And the family that I have now was the family that I had then. I think I got poisoned because while I was under, I could smell something, henceforth why I smell my food now.
I saw this woman, and she was really pretty. She was Black. She had long Black hair, and everything around me was like sand. And then it was like, I don't know, it was real colorful, like reds and oranges. And then a UFO came, and I saw these aliens come down. And then from there, it just like, I had moments where like, I just saw sunlight. And then I had moments where I just saw darkness.
So I had something interesting happen towards when we started doing the future visualizations. I think my mother hijacked the whole thing.
I ended up in her house, and she's been gone for a couple years, and it happened to be my birthday today. But I was in one of her old homes, and it was all vintage from the 70s. And I had a lot of my family, both deceased and still alive, that were just surrounding me. And I was still trying to do these. I was meditating, and they kept on coming towards me. And they were like, "What is she doing? Like, what are you doing?" And my mom kept telling them, "Oh, she's doing her reading thing. Don't bother her. Stay quiet." Like they were here. And then I remember I was like trying to get on the floor and hide in different rooms and in the kitchen and in the dining room. And I was still doing these, but I was also in that house, and they were just, they were quiet and they were just letting me do it, which I thought was it was very cool to feel that.